Part 2. Watch your words. Repeat anything often enough and it will start to become you. Tom Hopkins. Lesson 6. Your words blaze a trail. The words you consistently select will shape your destiny. Anthony Robbins. When was the last time you seriously thought about the words you use each and every day? How carefully do you select them? Now, you might be thinking, Jeff, why all this fuss about words? What's the big deal? The answer is simple. Your words have incredible power. They can build a bright future, destroy opportunity, or help maintain the status quo. Your words reinforce your beliefs, and your beliefs create your reality. Think of this process as a row of dominoes that looks like this. Thoughts, words, beliefs, actions, results. Here's how it works. Tom has a thought, such as, I'm not very good when it comes to sales. Now, let's remember that he doesn't have this thought only once. Oh, no. He's run it through his mind on a regular basis, maybe hundreds or thousands of times in his life. Then, Tom starts to use words that support this thought. He says to his friends and colleagues, I'm never going to do very well in sales, or I just hate making sales calls or approaching prospects. Here again, Tom repeats these phrases over and over, in his self-talk and in his discussions with others. This, in turn, strengthens his beliefs, and it's at this stage where the rubber really meets the road. You see, everything that you'll achieve in your life flows from your beliefs. So, in our sales example, Tom develops the belief that he's not going to be successful in sales and that he won't earn much money. This becomes embedded in his subconscious mind. What can possibly flow from that belief? Because Tom doesn't believe in his sales ability, he takes very little action, or he takes actions that aren't productive. He doesn't do the things that would be necessary to succeed in sales. And then, quite predictably, Tom gets very poor results. To make matters worse, Tom then starts to think more negative thoughts, repeat more negative words, reinforce negative beliefs, and get even more negative results. It's a vicious cycle. Of course, this whole process could have had a very happy ending if Tom had selected positive thoughts, and reinforced them with positive words. In turn, he'd reinforce the belief that he's successful in sales. As a result, Tom would take the actions consistent with that belief, and wind up with outstanding results. Words are, of course, the most powerful drug used by mankind. Rudyard Kipling. My point is, don't underestimate the role of your words in this process. People who feed themselves a steady diet of negative words are destined to have a negative attitude. It's a simple matter of cause and effect. You can't keep repeating negative words and expect to be a high achiever. And that's because negative words will always lead to the reinforcement of negative beliefs, and even to ally to negative outcomes. Why you don't want me to fix anything in your home when it comes to home repairs, I'm lost. You want me to replace a faucet or fix something in the toilet tank? I'd have a better chance of reaching the top of Mount Everest. Carpentry or electrical wiring? I haven't got a clue. You want to know my ultimate Achilles heel? It's those instruction sheets that explain how to assemble something that you've just taken out of the box. You know what I mean, those black and white booklets with references to Figure 10a that show you, or claim to show you, where all the nuts and bolts go, and how all the parts fit together. Instruction sheets have the same effect on me as Kryp Tonight had on Superman. If you recall the old Superman programs, the villain would shoot bullets at Superman, and the bullets bounced off his chest harmlessly. But there was one substance that Superman could not defend against, kryptonite. Whenever the bad guy held up a piece of, well, when I see an instruction sheet, I get weak in the knees and lose my power. I just know it's useless for me to even look at it. There's no way I'm going to understand it. So I put down the instructions and yell for Dolores to come in and show me what to do. For Dolores, it's a piece of cake. How did it come to this? I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the world, but I consider myself to be reasonably intelligent. Am I missing some gene for home repair skills that other people were given? No, that's not it either. The answer is quite obvious. For the last 40 years, I have repeatedly said, I'm no good at mechanical things, and I can't fix anything. And, lo and behold, after 40 years of using negative words, I've developed a strong belief that I can't do these things. Do you see how I created this situation by not being careful about the words I used? And, the truth is I could eventually reverse this trend if I'd start using positive words about my ability to make repairs. Scientists' words are worth looking at. Years ago, I read an article about Kent Cullers, a scientist who headed NASA's Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project. Cullers, who has a doctorate in physics, was developing software that searches for radio signals indicating the presence of other life forms in the universe. Sounds a little like Star Trek, doesn't it? But make no mistake about it, this is some pretty technical scientific research. And yet, Cullers has a physical challenge to contend with. Let me tell you how he describes it. He refers to his condition as a trivial affliction and just barely an inconvenience. What is Cullers' particular physical challenge? A touch of arthritis? Or an occasional migraine headache? Kent Cullers is blind. That's right, he's blind. Isn't it incredible that someone can describe blindness as a trivial affliction or just barely an inconvenience? By using these words, Kent Cullers is empowering himself to achieve great things. He doesn't give any power to his limitations and, as a result, he is able to transcend them and accomplish more than those who have their sight. What obstacles are you facing in your life right now? Imagine the power you could unleash if you saw them as just barely an inconvenience, instead of as an insurmountable barrier. To tell. Or not to tell. When I speak about the importance of using positive language to move you toward your goals, some of you may be wondering, Jeff, do I say these positive words to myself or do I also say these words to other people? You may be afraid that if you tell others about your goals, they'll think you're being conceited, and they may even laugh at you. Allow me to suggest a few guidelines in this area, with the understanding that there are no hard and fast rules, and you should do what works best for you. To begin with, use positive self-talk as often as possible. In my view, the more the merrier. After all, you're talking to yourself, so you don't have to worry about others hear your comments. The key is that you hear this positive input again and again, and it becomes deeply rooted in your subconscious mind. Whether to share your goals with other people is a much trickier issue. One thing I've learned is this: never discuss your goals with negative people. All they'll do is argue and point out all the reasons why you won't be successful. Who needs that? Often, these negative Nellies are the ones who do little or nothing in their own lives. They have no goals or dreams, and they don't want anyone else to succeed either. Yet, there are some instances when you can benefit by telling others about your goals. First of all, make sure that you're speaking with someone who's extremely positive and totally supportive of your efforts. This should be the kind of person who would be absolutely delighted if you achieved this goal, and would do anything in his or her power to assist you. You may have a friend or colleague that fits this role, or certain family members. It's also important to share your goals with others who are working with you to achieve that outcome. For example, if a sales manager wants to increase sales in the coming year by 20%, he or she would make this goal known to everyone on the staff. Then, everyone can work together to achieve it. Even though I'm encouraging you to use positive words to move you toward your objectives, I'm not suggesting that you ignore the obstacles that you may face, or that you discourage feedback from other people. Before embarking on any goal, you want to prepare for what may be coming down the road. Personally, I prefer to discuss those issues with someone who is positive, someone whose feedback includes creative solutions to the difficult ties that may arise. Furthermore, I'll only discuss my plans with people who are qualified to render an intelligent opinion on the subject. If you're thinking of going into your own business, it simply makes no sense to consult with your Uncle Elmer. Especially if Uncle Elmer is negative and worked for someone else all of his life. What does he know about owning a business? He'll give you a list of reasons not to go into business for yourself. After your little chat with Uncle Elmer, you'll start to doubt yourself. You don't need that kind of help. Words and accountability. There's another reason why, in some cases, you might decide to share your goal with someone else. And that's for accountability. In other words, if I tell others I'm going to do something, then I have to go ahead and do it. Think of this approach as burning your bridges. Let me assure you, I'm not a believer in burning bridges when it comes to personal or business relationships. But sometimes the only way to move forward in life, and to achieve an ambitious goal, is to cut off all avenues of retreat. This can be a very useful strategy. We may tell a friend that we're going to work out at the gym 3 times this week, knowing that at the end of the week, this friend will ask whether we did, in fact, go to the gym 3 times. An even more dramatic example is that of well-known motivational speaker Zig Ziglar. Ziglar decided to go on a diet and reduce his weight from 202 pounds to 165 pounds. At the same time, he was writing his book See You at the Top. In the book, Ziglar included a statement that he got his weight down to 165 pounds. This was 10 months before the book went to press. And then he placed an order with the printer for 25,000 copies. Now, remember, at the time he wrote these words, Ziglar actually weighed 202. He put his credibility on the line with 25,000 people. By including a statement that he weighed 165 pounds, Ziglar knew that he had to lose 37 pounds before the book was printed. And he did. Use this strategy selectively. Limit it to those goals that are very important to you, and where you're committed to go the distance. Is it risky? You bet it is. But it's a tremendous motivator. Words and emotions. In his best-selling book Awaken the Giant Within, Anthony Robbins devotes an entire chapter to the way in which our vocabulary affects our emotions, our beliefs, and our effectiveness in life. I don't agree with all of Robbins' philosophies, but his observations about the power of words are right on the mark. Robbins is keenly aware of how certain words impact our emotional intensity. For instance, let's say that someone has lied to you. You could react by saying that you're angry or upset. If the people who always talk about a lack of money ally don't accumulate much of it, Jeff Keller, however, use the words furious, livid, or enraged, your physiology and your subsequent behavior would be dramatically altered. Your blood pressure would rise. Your face would turn beet red. You'd feel tense all over. On the other hand, what if you characterized the situation as annoying or said that you were peeved? This lowers your emotional intensity considerably. In fact, say ing that you are peeved, explains Robbins, will probably make you laugh and break the negative emotional cycle completely. You'd be much more relaxed. Robbins gives other examples of how you can lower the intensity of negative emotions. Imagine, for instance, replacing "I've been destroyed" with "I've been set back," or using the phrase "I prefer" instead of "I hate." Of course, you can also intentionally select words to heighten positive emotions. Instead of saying "I'm determined," why not say "I'm unstoppable"? Or, in place of declaring that you feel okay, try "I feel phenomenal," or "I feel just tremendous." Juicy, exciting words like that lift your spirits to a higher level and profoundly influence those around you. When you consciously decide to use such terms, you're actually choosing to change the path on which you've been ing. Others will respond to you differently and you'll alter your perception of yourself, as well. A closer look at your words. Let's take a look at your life for a moment. Are there any areas where you've been using phrases like, I can't, I'm no good at ______, and it's impossible? We all know people who make statements like these. I can't draw. I'm no good at math. I can't remember names. It's impossible for me to make that kind of money. When you make these comments day in and day out for 10, 20 or 30 years, you're programming your mind for failure. It all comes back to your attitude. Every one of these examples reflects a negative attitude. And if you see the world through a smudged window, you're going to use negative language and get disappointing results. Fortunately, you can control your words, which means that you have the ability to build a positive belief system and to produce the results you want. The first step is awareness. Let's examine the phrases you've been using in 4 key areas of your life: relationships, finances, career, and health. 1. Relationships. Do you say things like, all the good men, or women, are taken, or people are always taking advantage of me? If you do, you're literally programming yourself for unhappy relationships. Your mind hears every word you speak and it sets out to prove you right. With regard to our above examples, your mind will see to it that you attract only those persons who will disappoint you or take advantage of you. Is this what you want? If not, stop repeating and causing your mind to focus on such negative statements. 2. Finances. What words do you use on a regular basis to describe your current financial situation and your prospects for the future? Phrases such as, I'm always in debt, the economy is lousy, or no one is buying, work against you. Far better to choose language which reaffirms prosperity and better economic times. Of course, you won't necessarily have abundant wealth within a few days after changing the way you speak. But the physical conditions can change only after your beliefs have altered. Clearing up your lawn. Gauge is an important first step. After all, the people with wealth in this world didn't get that way by moaning about being in poverty. And the people who always talk about a lack of money generally don't accumulate much of it. Career. If I were to ask you about your career prospects over the next 5 to 10 years, how would you respond? Be honest. Would you say that things will probably remain the same as they are now? Or would you describe a higher position with more challenges, more responsibilities and increased financial rewards? If you respond, I don't know where I'm going in my career, chances are not much will change. Your language reflects your lack of vision and direction. If, on the other hand, you have a clear goal which you can, and do, articulate fairly often, even if only to yourself, you stand an excellent chance of reaching that goal. The same, of course, holds true if you have your own business. Do you use language that is consistent with the growth of your business? Or do you constantly talk about how you'll never get to the next level? Or, health. Without question, our words have a profound impact on our health. For example, imagine that a group of us sat down to what seemed to be a perfectly wholesome and delicious meal. Then, 2 hours later I called and told you that every person who ate with us had been rushed to the hospital and treated for food poisoning. Suppose that you felt perfectly fine before I called. How would you react after hearing my information? Most likely, you'd clutch your stomach, get pale and feel very ill. Why? Because my words instilled a belief in you which, in turn, your body started acting upon. This same bodily reaction would have occurred even if I was playing a cruel joke and was lying about the whole situation. Your body responds to words it hears you and other people say. That's why it makes absolutely no sense to keep repeating that you have chronic back pain that will never go away, or that you get 3 or 4 bad colds every year. By uttering these statements, you are actually instructing your body to manifest pain and disease. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not suggesting that you deny pain or disease, or that you can overcome any illness, but there's certainly nothing to be gained, and much harm that can flow, from using language that reinforces suffering and incurability. You have a choice. Well, have you thought about the words you use in these 4 areas of your life? When we repeat certain phrases over and over, it's as if a groove is formed in our brain. We keep replaying the same old refrain in our heads like a broken record. The trouble is, whenever you say these words, you just deepen the groove, replaying the same old myths in your mind, strengthening the same old beliefs, and getting the same old results. Recognize, however, that just because you've said things in the past, there's no reason to blindly continue doing so. While it takes some discipline and vigilance on your part to make changes in your language, it's well worth the effort. So, from now on, consciously choose words that will point you in the direction of your goals. Ask a friend to remind you when you slip. Remember, it's up to you to speak in a way that will move you toward what you want in life. Therefore, use words that are consistent with the path you truly wish to be on. Take action along those lines, and watch yourself begin to travel in that wonderful direction. Lesson 7. How are you? Your day goes the way the corners of your mouth turn. Unknown. Our answer to the question, how are you, seems like such a small thing. But we must answer that question at least 10 times a day, and perhaps as many as 50. So it's not a small thing at all. It's a significant part of our daily conversations. When someone asks, how are you? What do you say? Your answer is usually no more than a few words. And yet, that short response tells a lot about you and your attitude. In fact, your response can literally shape your attitude. I've observed that the responses to how are you can be classified into 3 categories: negative, mediocre, and positive. Let's examine these 3 categories and some common responses under each one. Negative responses. The negative replies to how are you include phrases such as lousy, terrible, I'm tired, it's not my day, thank God it's Friday, a day older and a dollar broker. Don't ask. When someone responds with don't ask, I know I'm in for trouble. That person is going to unleash a multitude of complaints and make me sorry for asking how are you in the first place. And I really pity those who take the thank God it's Friday approach to life. Think of what they're saying. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are bad days every week. For these people, 4/5 of their work week is lousy. The 5th day, Friday, is bearable only because they know they'll have the next 2 days off. Is this a way to live your life? Are you beginning to see how these negative phrases can poison your attitude and turn off other people? Mediocre responses. Those in the mediocre group are a step up from the negative bunch, but they still have plenty of room for improvement. Here are some of the things they say: I'm okay. Not too bad. Could be worse. Same old, same old. Hangin' in there. Fine. Do you really want to spend a lot of time with someone who thinks that life is not too bad? Is that the person you want to do business with? When we use words like these, we also diminish our energy. Can you imagine someone saying, could be worse, with an upright posture and a lot of enthusiasm? Of course not. These people sound like they haven't slept in 2 days. There's no getting around it. People who use mediocre words will develop a mediocre attitude and get mediocre results. And I know you don't want that. Positive responses. Then, there's the positive approach. These are the enthusiastic people who say, terrific, fantastic, great, excellent, super. I'm on top of the world. It doesn't get any better. Those who use positive words like these have a bounce in their step, and you feel a little better just by being around them. Be honest. How did you feel as you read the positive list? I don't know about you, but I'm energized and excited as I review that list. These are the people I look forward to meeting today. These are the people who are more likely to get my business. Why not go back and reread the negative list and the mediocre list? Say them out loud. How do they make you feel? Bummed out, for sure. You see, if given the choice, I'd rather be around people who are positive and full of life, as opposed to those who are negative and listless. It's like the old saying that everybody lights up a room, some when they walk into the room, and some when they walk out. You want to be the one who lights up a room when you walk in. As for me, when someone asks me how are you, I respond with terrific. It projects a positive attitude to the other person, and the more I say it, the more I feel terrific. Join the positive group. Well, you've had a chance to review some typical responses in each category: negative, mediocre, and positive. Which of these phrases do you use most often? Which responses do your friends and family use? If you find yourself in the negative or mediocre group, I suggest you immediately consider revising your response and joining the ranks of the positive. Here's why. When you're asked how are you, and you say horrible or not too bad, your physiology is adversely affected. You tend to slump your shoulders and head and take on a depressed posture. What about your emotions? After stating that you're lousy, do you feel better? Of course not. You feel even more down in the dumps because negative words and thoughts generate negative feelings, and eventually, negative results. And it's up to you to break it. Even if real circumstances in your life persuaded you to state that you're lousy, perhaps a promising business deal fell through, or your child received poor grades in school, your gloomy attitude does nothing to improve the situation. To make matters worse, your mediocre or negative reply turns others off. They're dragged down just being around you and hearing your pessimism. Form a new habit. If all of these negative consequences flow from your words, why do you continue to say them? More than likely, it's because you haven't recognized that you have a choice in the matter. Instead, you're following a habit that you developed many years ago, a habit that no longer serves you. In the end, your own words are a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say everything is terrible, your mind is attracted to those people and circumstances that will cause that statement to be true. If, on the other hand, you repeatedly state that your life is wonderful, your mind will begin to move you in a positive direction. For instance, just consider what happens when you respond that you're excellent or terrific. As you say these words, your physiology begins to correspond with your optimistic language. Your posture is more upright. Other people are attracted to your energy and vitality. Your business and personal relationships improve. Will all of your life's problems magically disappear? No, but you've set in motion a very important principle: we get what we expect in life. I can tell you from first-hand experience that this is one of those little things in life that makes a big difference. About 15 years ago, when someone asked me how are you, I'd say something like okay with very little energy. You know what I was doing? I was programming myself to have okay relationships with people. I was programming myself to have okay success. I was programming myself to have an okay attitude and an okay life. But then, thank goodness, I learned that I didn't have to settle for an okay life. So I picked up my response a few notches and began to say terrific. I said it with some energy. Why? Sure, at first it was a little uncomfortable. Some people looked at me like I was a little strange. But after about a week, it started to come naturally to me. And I was amazed at how much better I felt, and how people were much more interested in talking with me. Believe me, this is not rocket science. You don't need to say you are well, or all is well with you, and God shall hear your words and make them come true. good looks to have a great attitude. You just need to get in the habit of using a high energy, positive response, and you'll get the same exciting results I got. What if I don't feel terrific? Whenever I do a presentation and recommend to the audience that they give a very upbeat response to how are you? Someone always comes up to me afterward and says, what if I really don't feel terrific? I don't want to lie to my friends and coworkers by telling them everything is wonderful when it isn't. Now don't get me wrong. I put the highest value on integrity and telling the truth. Yet, I don't think this is a matter of telling the truth. Let me explain. Assume for a moment that Sally feels tired. When someone at work asks her how are you? She wants to be perfectly honest, so she says, I'm tired. Here's what will happen. Sally will reinforce the belief that she's tired. She'll feel even more fatigued. She'll probably slump her shoulders and let out a sigh. She'll have a lousy, unproductive day at work. And let's get back to the person who asked Sally the question, and who probably regrets it now. That person also feels worse. After all, when someone tells you how tired she is, do you feel uplifted? No way. Just the suggestion of the word tired, and you start yawning. So, Sally has brought herself down, as well as her co-work. Okay, Sally goes home after her grueling day, and now, she's exhausted. So she plops into her favorite chair and opens the newspaper to look at the winning lottery number bears. As she pulls her own ticket out of her wallet, she discovers that she's holding the winning ticket. She just won $10 million. What do you think Sally would do? Remember, she's very tired. You and I both know that Sally would leap out of her chair, be jumping up and down, screaming and waving her arms in the air. You'd think she was leading an aerobics class. Naturally, she'd run to pick up the phone to call her family and friends. She'd be a bundle of energy and would probably stay up all night celebrating and planning what to do with the money. But wait a second. 10 seconds ago, this woman was exhausted. Now, she's got the energy of a 15-year-old cheerleader who has just been told she made the cheerleading squad. What happened in those 10 seconds to change someone from being utterly exhausted to wildly exuberant? Did she get a shot of vitamin B12? Did anyone throw a bucket of ice water in her face? No. Her transformation was entirely mental. Now I'm not trying to diminish what Sally was feeling. Her fatigue was very real, but it wasn't as much physical as mental. So, was Sally telling the truth when she said she was tired? It really has very little to do with the truth. It's a matter of what Sally chose to focus on. She could concentrate on feeling tired. That was one option. On the other hand, she could have thought about the many blessings in her life and felt very fortunate and energized. How we feel is very often a subjective matter. When we tell ourselves that we're tired, we feel tired. When we tell ourselves that we feel terrific, we feel energized. As you'll recall from lesson 2, we become what we think about. Respond with enthusiasm for the next month. Try this experiment. When anyone asks how are you? Whether it's someone at work or a cashier at the store, respond with energy and enthusiasm that you're great. Or terrific. Say it with a smile and a sparkle in your eye. It doesn't matter whether or not you completely and totally feel terrific at that moment. Simply apply the act as if principle. In other words, if you want to be more posy, act as if you already are, and, pretty soon, you'll find that you have, in fact, become more positive. Don't worry if you feel a little uncomfortable saying these words at the beginning. Stick with it and eventually you'll grow into it. You'll quickly notice that you feel better, that others want to be around you, and that positive results will come your way. By the way, how are you? I can almost hear you say TRFIC. Lesson 8. Stop complaining. Troubles, like babies, grow larger by nursing. Lady Holland. How do you feel when someone unloads all of his Lems and complaints on you. Not very uplifting and energizing, is it? The truth is, nobody likes to be around a complainer, except, perhaps, other complainers. Of course, all of us complain at one time or another. The important question is, how often do you complain? If you're wondering whether you complain too much, simply ask your friends, relatives, or coworkers. They'll let you know. Now, when I say complain, I'm not talking about those instances when you discuss your problems in an attempt to search for solutions. That's constructive and commendable. And I'm not referring to those occasions when you share your life experiences, including disappointments, with friends or relatives in the context of bringing them up to date on the latest developments in your life. After all, part of being human is sharing our experiences and supporting each other. Nobody wants to hear about your aches and pains. Maybe a few examples will give you a better idea about the kind of complaining that's counterproductive. One of the most common areas of complaint is the subject of illness. In this category are comments such as, "My back is killing me," or "I have a terrible sinus headache." Worse yet, some people get very graphic in explaining the gory details of their particular ailment, such as, "I had this green stuff oozing out of my," and doesn't it just make your day when your coworker tells you that he or she is nauseous? Let's face it. What can I possibly do for you if you have a stomach ache? I'm not a physician. Go to a doctor if you have a medical problem. More importantly, why are you telling me this? You might want sympathy, but all you're doing is dragging me down and reinforcing your own suffering. Talking about pain and discomfort will only bring you more of the same, and encourage those around you to look for the exits. When it comes to complaints about illness, the principle of escalation usually rears its ugly head. Here's how it works. You tell your friend about the agony you went through with the flu. Your friend interrupts and says, "You think you had it bad. When I had the flu, I had a 104-degree fever and had to be rushed to the hospital. I almost died." Or, tell someone that your back or foot hurts, and count how many seconds it takes for that person to switch the conversation to his or her own back pain and aching feet. Complainers love to play this game. Their pain is always worse than yours. 7-6 attitude is everything. Self-pity is an acid, which eats holes in happiness. Earl Nightingale. Don't let it rain on your parade. Another favorite complaint area is the weather. It starts to rain and people say, "What a lousy, miserable day. Why does some moisture from the heavens make it a lousy day?" When someone makes that remark to me, I respond, "It's wet out, but it's a great day." By associating rain with lousy day, you're programming yourself in a negative way. Furthermore, your complaints about the weather won't change the conditions. It simply makes no sense to get upset about things over which you have no control, and which have no significant impact on your life. Finally, there are the petty complaints, such as, "The waiter didn't come over to take my order for 5 minutes," or "John got an office with a larger window than I have." Life presents too many difficult challenges for us to get bogged down with silly things like that. And when you gripe about insignificant things, you're also saying something about yourself. If I'm your employer or a member of your team, I'm wondering how you'll react when we really have a problem worth worrying about. Every reason to complain. Recently, I was in my office and thinking about some of the things that weren't going as well as I had planned. You know, the typical business problems, results not happen as fast as I had expected. And I'll confess that I've been doing a little complaining about it. Then Pedro walked in. Pedro is in his early 20s and came to this country about 6 years ago from Honduras. He works for a company that cleans homes and offices. You talk about a positive attitude. Pedro is one of the most positive people I've ever met, always smiling and upbeat. On this day, however, I asked Pedro about Hurricane Mitch and its impact on his homeland. The smile quickly left his face. He told me of the devastation the hurricane Attitude is everything 7-7 had caused. Thousands of people had died. More than 1 million people were left homeless. Pedro said that his father, mother and brother still lived in Honduras, and he had no idea if they were dead or alive. He had no way to contact them, all the phone lines in that area had been destroyed. Pedro said he thought about his family every day. Can you imagine the agony of not even knowing if your family is still alive? Then Pedro went on to tell me about all the things he was doing to help the people in Honduras. He was collecting money, clothing and other necessities. He was actively working with the relief organizations. Instead of just griping about the problem, he was doing whatever he could do to ease their pain. After speaking with Pedro, I began to realize just how inconsequential my own problems were, and how fortunate I am. You better believe I stopped complaining. I faced the rest of the day with renewed energy and a much better attitude. By the way, several weeks later I saw Pedro again. And yes, he had his usual winning smile and his great attitude. The good news is that his family members are all alive. The bad news is that they lost everything in the flood and are now living in a shelter. Clean water is very scarce. Disease is rampant. I can't even fathom what it's like to lose everything you own and have to start over from scratch, especially under these difficult conditions. Can you? There's no doubt about it. Pedro has every reason to whine about his family's bad luck. But he doesn't. He realizes that complaining would be a terrible waste of his time and energy. Thank you, Pedro, for reminding all of us that complaining is not the answer to our challenges in life. The secret of happiness is to count your blessings while others are adding up their troubles. William Penn. Putting things in perspective, there's another valuable lesson that we can learn from Pedro, and that's the importance of keeping things in perspective. Over the years, I've noticed that complainers lack perspective. They tend to blow their problems way out of proportion. Optimistic people, people with great attitudes, tend to have a sense of what's truly important in life. The dictionary defines perspective as the capacity to view things in their true relation or relative importance. Think about the people you know. Do you have any friends who get bent out of shape because they got a flat tire? And how about those who sever ties with close family members because of a dispute over the seating arrangements at a wedding? It's clear these folks have lost sight of the relative importance of things. I think we can all learn from Eddie Rickenbacker, who drifted in a life raft for 21 days, hopelessly lost in the Pacific. After surviving the ordeal, Rickenbacker said, "If you have all the fresh water you want to drink and all the food you want to eat, you ought never complain about anything." Let me share with you some of the things I'm grateful for. 1. I'm in good health. 2. Dolores is in good health. 3. We have our own home. 4. We have plenty of food to eat and clean water to drink. 5. We live in the United States and enjoy freedom. 6. I love my work. Attitude is everything. 79. Reflect upon your present blessings, of which every man has plenty, not on your past misfortunes, of which all men have. 7. I get to travel and meet fascinating people. 8. I have many loyal friends. 9. I draw strength from my relationship with God. This is just a partial list of the blessings in my life. And you know what? Even with all of these wonderful things, there are times when I start to take some of them for granted. But I've learned to quickly reconnect with these blessings, and it boosts my attitude and brings me right back on course. So, what is it that you've been complaining about lately? Are they really life and death matters? The next time you're tempted to gripe about your problems, pick up a pen and piece of paper and start listing all the reasons you have to be grateful. Let me tell you, it sure beats complaining. Be a source of positive news. I'm not suggesting that you just sit back and ignore all of the problems in your life. However, rather than complain it's far better to focus your attention and your energy on those steps you can take to solve, or at least lessen, your problem. For instance, let's say you feel a little tired lately. Instead of telling everyone how lousy you feel, make an effort to exercise more regularly or get to bed a little earlier. To review, complaints work against you in 3 ways. First, no one wants to hear negative news about your illness and your problems. Second, complaining reinforces your own pain and discomfort. So why keep replaying painful, negative memories? Third, complaining, by itself, accomplishes nothing and diverts you from the constructive actions you could be taking to improve your situation. It's been said that 90% of the people don't care about your problems, and the other 10% are glad. If you're all wrapped up in yourself, you're overdressed. Kate Halverson. You have them. Seriously though, all of us can cut down on our complaining. From now on, let's do ourselves and others a favor and make our conversations uplifting. The people who don't complain very much, and those who speak positively, are a joy to be around. Decide to join that group, so people won't have to cross the street when they see you coming. You coming. You coming. You coming. You coming. You coming.